If you had told me 5 years ago that I was destined to become a stay-at-home mom, I never would have believed you, because let me tell you, I was Miss Career Girl. I loved working. And that said, I am now extremely satisfied as a stay-at-home mom. So let's talk about the pros and cons of stay-at-home life. I think the most important thing, or the biggest privilege I should say, is the ability to have the choice. I know a lot of people don't have the choice, and that sucks, frankly. Like, it sucks that, especially in the States, not more women have the opportunity to choose if they want to go back to work. I'm lucky enough that I have had the choice up to now. Like, things can always change. I just want to put that out there. I think that the best thing is getting to have the choice, which a lot of people don't have. That said, let's start with the pros. The first big pro, I would say, of being a stay-at-home mom is getting to give my son individual care, and the feeling that my bond with him is just incredibly strong. I feel like I understand him better than anyone. I feel like he trusts me, and I'm sure that this would still be the case if I was working, but rightly or wrongly, I just feel like we are even more connected because we spend pretty much 24/7 together. And on that note, I get to raise him exactly how I see fit. We're still breastfeeding, 7 months in, almost 7 months in. I don't think I would have had a successful breastfeeding journey if I was going back to work. We're doing elimination communication, which is essentially potty training. And whenever I talk about this, someone chimes in the comments, oh, well, you can do that because you're a stay-at-home mom. And that is absolutely true. I think if I was working, there's no way that I would be able to take my son to the toilet every few hours to see if he needed to go. There's just so many more things I'm able to do with him because I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like, he is my job, and taking care of him is my job. And that sounds really bad, but I don't mean job, I mean more like my focus, my priority, because I'm not also thinking about work and thinking about a boss or colleagues or promotions. Like, I'm very focused on him. The next benefit is that we don't have to pay for daycare. I've started looking at daycares for next year for my son, and I don't know how people are having multiple children paying for daycare. I'm like, holy guacamole, that is bananas. For now, the great thing is that we don't have to spend money on daycare, so that's a massive savings that we get to make. The next element is one that I am almost like paranoid over, which is his safety. I definitely feel a kind of way about who we leave him with, and I haven't felt comfortable enough yet to just leave him with someone while my husband and I go on a date night, for example. Like, especially now when he can't even speak, he can't even communicate. I just feel, not comfortable leaving him with others. So the great thing is that I know that he's always with either myself or my husband for now, and I am 100% certain that he's entirely safe with us and that nothing's going to happen to him. The final thing, which I don't think can be understated, is that, as I mentioned before, because I don't have a job, I'm kind of like the CEO of the household and the family. I make sure that we, plan things on the weekend for us to do together. Like, I really proactively try and invest time into helping our family thrive as a family unit, building our relationship with each other, making memories together, and I definitely wouldn't have as much time to do that if I was working full-time. So those are all the pros. Now on to the cons. The first con is the hit to my career. I, as I said before, was like super career focused. I had massive ambitions for myself and where I wanted to go. And the terrifying thing is that I stopped working and I see it as me no longer developing the asset, which is myself. Like, ultimately, we live in a world where we are all assets that have to make money. And right now, the money that I make is from my partner. But God forbid something happens to my partner, or knock on wood, we break up. But definitely terrifies me the idea that I'm not building myself as an asset. And if one day I was forced to go back to work and was a single mom, for example, maybe with 2 or 3 kids, my situation would be very different. On that note, it's kind of separate but related, is less household income. I often play the game of thinking, like, imagine if we had the salary that I used to be making on top of what we make with your salary, we would be much more financially comfortable. But then we have to remind ourselves, like, we have enough. You don't need all those things, right? Like, for us right now, what's more important is me being able to be home with my son. I tell my husband that all the time. I always thank him for enabling me to be a stay-at-home mom. And I don't mean that in the sense of allowing me to be, but in the sense that I know he works really hard to create a situation where we have the choice. And some people work hard, and despite all their hard work, they still don't get to make that choice. And I acknowledge that. Next con is around isolation. So feeling like I'm alone at home sometimes. I try and create events in our lives. So I try and, as I said, every day I try and go out with my son to try and do something. And this brings me on as well to the mundanity and repetition of my days. My son is so little, he can't talk, he can't move, he can't really play. He can play, but it's not the same as maybe an older child might be. And I imagine that once he's older, I'll look back at this phase and miss this phase because it's very simplistic, but it can definitely feel repetitive. And that's why, for example, I joined a local mom group just to add a little bit of variety and spice in my life, because it's really tough just staying at home all day and taking care of a little one, especially when you're trying to be screen free. I've talked about this before. It would be a lot easier if I could just turn the TV on and we would just hang out and watch TV all day, but I proactively try to not put the TV on, which means that I'm on his mat playing with him. I'm taking him with me while I do household chores. I take him to Target. I take him to play dates. Like, I'm trying to proactively make our lives more interesting. But when I don't do that, it definitely feels mundane and repetitive. So these were my pros and cons. If there's anything else that you'd add in terms of pros and cons, let me know. I'd love to hear it.